Here's what I've been thinking about. So, as you know from previous conversations and from some of the stuff that I've written about in Rules of Work, I get a little miffed when I hear these people talking about, well, because of the lack of jobs, more people are finding they have to go start their own business. And I'm like, ooh, that's terrible. That's a death sentence there. They're forced to go and, take care of themselves and become contributing members of society, create their own economy. How terrible. Or they're forced to become home workers, or they're forced to start selling things on eBay. And I'm thinking, man, so what you're saying is the lack of jobs is really creating massive freedom and just great opportunities for people to find that they don't need a company to support them, and that, wow, you can actually afford health care even if you actually just generate enough value. And there's a lot of things you can do, and you're flexible and you're controlling of your life. You can live where you want to. You can generate your own income. You're free. That's the result. And I'm thinking, this is not a tragedy. This is the greatest economic boon to happen to our society culturally in a long time. We're throwing off this sort of pre-industrialized dependence, or this industrialized dependence, going back to a pre-industrialized state where, hey, I don't need you. I can go over here with my people and gather berries over there, and the industrial economy told us that, and this is one of the great secrets of America, is that, we're immigrants. The majority of us are immigrants. And for all the politics now of hey, let's talk about immigration. Who are our parents? My parents got off the boat on Ellis Island, or not my parents, but my great-grandparents did. They came from Germany. And that was one of the great waves, the Germans, the Irish, the Eastern Europeans, where we came over, and if we wanted to survive, we had to get a job. We absolutely had to find our place in the industrial economy. The only other way to do it was to come down here where I live and, get some land and live in the West, and you start your own business. It was called a farm, So we've lost a lot of that, though. I think the 1950s, from that period on, it kind of said, no, there's really no other option than employment. So they did it again. First it's this whole home working employment thing. I was reading the paper the other day, Wall Street Journal, and I quote, the number, they're talking about the drop in jobs being, greater than what we expected. We thought we'd be okay by now. I don't know about them, but you and I didn't think that. But the number of people working part-time because they cannot find full-time work continued to climb. And I just thought the arrogance, the assumption of that the reason so many people are in part-time work is because they can't find full-time work. And I thought, well, I bet that's largely true. I think maybe, let's say that's 80% of the people that are working part-time. It's because they can't find full-time work. But I was a student. I was a person that was doing some projects on my house and was helping my wife start her business. And I remember specifically looking for part-time work because I wasn't going to work full-time. I had other sources of income. I did a little of my own work. I was mowing some lawns, and people scoff at that, but you wouldn't believe how much money there is in that. But I looked at the assumption, and I started thinking, I bet that assumption will come under fire in the coming years. If you look back at, when we were hunter-gatherers, we worked 5 to 6 hours per day, 2.5 days a week. So in other words, half the amount of time in terms of days, and then almost half the amount of time in terms of hours per day. That's what we worked. The Industrial Revolution put us up to 91 hours a week. We worked 6 days a week, 12 to 16 hours. 91 is average. Some people worked more than 100. And then collective bargaining and that sort of thing brought us down to this 40-hour work week, 5 days a week, 9 to 5 kind of basis. And we all wanted to imitate bankers. The image from the 1920s or so on, who were the guys that we saw on the TV shows? You'd turn on the TV and it would always be the Gables and these guys playing a successful stockbroker, the playboy, the investment banker. We all wanted bankers' hours. And so 9 to 5 became the standard, a leather chair, 9 to 5, and a corner office. And recent studies have shown that the 4-day work week is actually far more beneficial to our economy, because on a 4-day work week, not only does it stimulate consumption, because people have time to go sort of look at what else there is in life besides their jobs. It stimulates the economy as a whole, and it improves worker education, which is good for business and good for individuals, good for everybody, because people now have time. They got 3 days off. They have time to write that book or take that class in PHP or MySQL. It also saves in daycare costs and transport costs, which makes a huge hit on the carbon footprint of our current 5-day work week. So it's just good all around. Other countries have figured this out. Like France in 2000 dropped to a 35-hour work week. Of course, we're not going to do that. No, we would be following France. But the truth is there are only about 5 countries that are doing worse than we are. If you look at Korea and Japan, and I lived in Korea, the work day is insane. You know, I've seen guys, the average, I would say, average is 10 to 12 hours, and you get 1 day off a month. There's not a weekly day off. You get 1 day out of 30, and that's only if your boss can spare you. You have to know that he may cancel on you and say, I'm sorry, I can't, I need you, I can't have you that day off this month. And you don't get to make it up. That's Korea, that's Japan, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Mexico. Those are the only people that are working more hours. But most of the world has figured out that, a shorter work week or fewer hours doesn't mean a hit in production. In fact, it means a huge boon to our economy. We get better production, more educated workforce, etc. So this is the last thing I want to say is that I think there's a stigma associated to part-time work that sort of says you're not successful. You're not a grown-up. You're not a contributing member of society. You're sort of lazy. You really don't want to work if you're working part-time. And I feel this kind of 1950s conservatism, holding us back about what constitutes work, where the symbols of success are you have to have the car, the house, the spouse, you have to have 2 kids, 2 pets, you have to have the picket fence, and some kind of career approval. Your boss has to approve of, he's doing really well there. Somebody likes him, And I think that stigmatization is out of place now because I think as more and more people find that they can be contractors, home workers, eBay sellers, self-employed people, part-timers, and moonlight for a couple of different sources, especially if we achieve sort of universal health care, the whole reason for not moonlighting is gone, because now I can work 20 hours for this employer, 20 hours for that employer, because they don't have me controlled by the fact that, well, neither one's going to give me health care because I'm only 20 hours. If we can solve some of these other issues, then actually we can actually restart our economy, precisely with part-time jobs and the kind of work that is so stigmatized in our economy. So that's what's been on my mind. And you can see I'm kind of fired up about it. So what's your take, Steve?
That's huge. Well, I can see why you'd be fired up. That really is, we're on the threshold of all that. So I love it. I really do. The stigma of part-time work, a couple of stories about that. First of all, it's only as you would, I think you would agree, it's only a stigma in certain situations. Now, when I go to make an appointment with my dentist and I ask for an appointment on Friday, sorry, doctor's not in on Friday. How cool. Right. Life is good, right? I should have been a dentist. And of course you can get a hygienist appointment and a couple of odds and ends from 8 to 12 on Friday, but that's about it. So, and there's no stigma there. Life is good. Yeah. It's only in, I think, what you're pointing out is the corporate environment. And of course, that's what we're railing against. I totally agree. But isn't a dentist or an accountant or attorney a little bit closer to, I'm talking about attorney with a kind of like a small practice type thing, not big corporate law firms. Isn't that a little bit more like freelancers? Because what they're doing is, they do a little bit of work for everybody. Instead of having this one job for a company that they do permanently. So I think you're absolutely right that that's where we're headed as more and more of us, reconfigure our work and what we do into a freelance type ethic, then we're going to take whatever hours we want. And this is the freedom that you're talking about. This is the freedom that I want to see and have. We talked about this earlier when we were talking about financial security, that it's better to have multiple clients than just one client. And so if I can have 2 or more part-time clients instead of 1 full-time client, I absolutely love it. This is way better from a financial security point of view. And the clients get a better deal too, because they don't have to pay full-time to get the same quality and experience that we offer on a part-time basis. This is what I love when I work with the company accountant, is for a few hours I'm getting his lifetime of experience, and that's just fabulous. So absolutely, yeah. What is it with that stigma as an employee, but also as a contractor, though? We tend to not be held to the same standard. Of course, you only bill what you work, but if you choose and agree with the client not to bill full time, or hey, this week I've got something else going on and things are kind of slow here anyway, why don't we throttle back to half time? Oh sure, yeah, that's fine. Thanks a lot. Let me know when you're back. I had my current client, the IT director was making a joke, and I absolutely love this. He said, well, contractors are non-human, so it doesn't matter anyway. And that was hilarious because it touches on that thing of you're not in the family unless you're a full-time employee. But, when you're in the family, you sort of have these things that you're talking about. You're stuck with this stigma. If you're not working full-time, then you're not really a full contributing member and all this kind of stuff. It goes back to everything that we read in your piece in Rules of Work. So I totally agree. Talking at the top about what a disappointment that we're all having to find work for ourselves and start up businesses or start up other endeavors since we can't find proper jobs. I do think that's funny, and I wish I'd seen that news myself. I think it's fabulous. I had dinner last night with a guy who's a graphic designer, and he's very much in that space, and he kind of talks about the same thing. He said, this really is my ideal scenario. It's just that this transition from the jobs economy to being able to find work is still a challenge. So like you said, we've got the healthcare issue, because traditionally in the States, if I take a part-time job, I don't get healthcare. So wow, how am I going to get healthcare? And two, just financially, how do I go from the steady paycheck, which we're all addicted to being able to find work easily and efficiently enough to where it doesn't eat up, half of my 40-hour work week. I can't spend 20 hours hunting for work and then I have only 20 hours or 30 hours available to bill it. So we've got a couple of issues there that really need to be solved and are being solved now that we've got so many people doing this, pursuing whatever entrepreneurial dreams they have, because hey, I don't have a job anymore. So all of that's coming together as we speak, and I think that really is the new economy, leaving the 1950s job ethic and going back to just getting things done and inventing new things.